Good?
Yep.
Hey guys, Kevin Gain here, Team Losi Racing. We're here for In Touch with TLR, episode 11. We got something really cool to show you. I know you guys have all seen this already. This is the new 8ight-X. It's our new line of 8-scale buggy. It's from ground up. There's only a very small handful of parts that are came over from our old 4.0 buggy. So this car here was built from the ground up, all new geometry, all new parts. It's metric, which was a big thing for our customers. When Brian sat down and developed this car, when we sat down at the round table and decided on everything that we were going to do, we basically went through the list of all the complaints and all the issues that we had with our current buggy at the time. And we basically went in, and our goal was to fix all of those issues that we had, improve bump handling, improve steering, improve jumping, landing, everything that you can think of was put into this vehicle. So we wanted to show you some stuff. We're going to spend a lot of these videos the next few weeks with the In Touch with TLR. We're going to spend, showing you the different things that you can do with this buggy. And one of the big complaints that we had with our old car was how hard it was to work on, how hard it was to get the front diff, the rear diff, the center diff out of the vehicle. And we addressed that. Brian Kinney did a really good job with making it really easy to work on. We're going to show you one example of that today. We're going to show you how easy it is to get the center diff out of the vehicle. And the following weeks, we're going to show you, next week, we're going to talk with Brian Kinney, the engineer on this vehicle, and we're going to talk about how they came up with the idea, how the process worked, how the testing went, and how this buggy came to life. So that's going to be next week. We're going to talk with Brian Kinney. We're also, next week, it's going to be a long episode. We're going to show you how to get to the front and rear diffs of the vehicle. So this week, I want to show you how to do the center diff, because I find it really neat. I was actually doing some testing with Dakota a couple weeks ago, and he stayed on the driver's stand, and I was able to switch the center diff out of the car and go from 5,000 to 3,000 weight diff oil in the center. Made it really nice and really easy to be able to do that. I know you guys have seen the pictures of the vehicle online and everything. You can take a quick look at it here. You can see the servo here now is a floating servo, which Brian did that because when we moved the servo back, we had some concerns because, our 2.0 buggy at the time, when the servo was in the back, we had some servo failures. So we want to make sure that wasn't a problem this time around. So we came to find out that a lot of our issues in the past were vibration and heat. So by holding the servo up and on a floating tray like this off the center diff, it eliminated a ton of vibration. And the servo is also quite a bit farther away from the engine compared to how it was in the past. And the temperatures of the servos have been dropped dramatically, and we've had no servo failures with all of our testing, so we're really stoked on all that. So we're going to show you real quickly here. I'm going to do this backwards so you guys can really get a quick view of how this comes out of the car. But all you have to really do to get the center diff out is you pull the linkage off just like you normally would, and it's literally 4 screws. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4. Pull those screws out just like that. Now watch this, guys. This is awesome. Center diff comes right out of the car, and there's your center diff. Pull the center diff out. There you have it. That's how easy it is to take the center diff out of the car. Like I said, a couple weeks ago, Dakota was doing some testing. We ran the car at the Horizon race, and we stayed after on Monday. And I literally had two separate diffs built with different weight oils in it. And he ran, I did lap times, he came in, I changed the center diff real quick. He went back out and did lap times, and we were able to compare real quickly and real quickly how the two diffs worked on the track within him not leaving the driver's stand, which I think is really important. You get a true test that way. When you come back, you kind of have time to think about things. You can kind of make your mind up one way or the other without actually feeling it. So I think it was really, really cool. Now I'm going to show you real quickly here a couple things with the center diff itself. One of the issues we were having was our brake rotors would wander, which would make the brakes stick. If you look down here, Brian's made little guides for the brake rotors to guide in, so they can't wander around. Keeps the disc real nice and centered right in the pads how they're supposed to be. You can see how the center diff split mount is really nice. It's all plastic, lightweight. You can also see that our brake rotors now, they are the same size front and rear, and they're also quite a bit thicker. And if you take a look here, they're quite a bit thicker, a lot beefier. Brake performance has been better. The brake pads themselves have also been changed. So if you won't be able to take a look at the pads, but the pad material is also changed. And if you also look here, JR, if you could put photo here, there's a hole now in the brake caliper adjustment here, so you can put a 2.5 ball in and you can make adjustments on that, the tension here, really quickly. And you don't have to take it apart to get that big 1/4-inch wrench in there or nut driver in there to make adjustments. So you can now make adjustments if your adjustment's a little bit off, all in the car. Really, really easy. The brake springs are a lot stiffer spring, so it forces the pad away, also allowing the brakes to not stick. The brake performance, like I said, is much better than our old vehicle. Everything functions really well. Everything's more up to date and more up to speed where everything needs to be. So I'm going to throw the center diff back in the car real quick so you guys can see how easy it is to put the diff back in. Mind you, I am doing this backwards as far as facing and looking at it. So grab the diff, drop it right into the spot, make sure the rotors are in the guides like they are. The center diff, I just dropped the screw in there because I am doing this backwards. So now this just flops right back on, like so, and you tighten down the screws. Dakota's car has been taken apart because we've done several videos on this. I hope we're not wearing it out. And as you can see, the diff is officially back in the car. And that's it. That's the center diff. Like I said, it's really nice. You can make diff change adjustments really, really quickly. If you have any problems, you don't really, it makes you want to work on the car more with how easy it is to get to the diffs in the vehicle. Also, I'll show you here in the front. So if you look on the bottom of the chassis, you notice the diff case does not go through the chassis any longer, which that was one of the biggest problems we had with getting the diffs out of the vehicle. You had to take the arms off the car, you had to take the whole clip off the car to get the diffs out of the car. Well, you no longer have to take the arms off, you don't have to take the front pivot off of the car anymore. If you look here, there is 2 screws below the sway bar and 2 screws up here, and the front cap comes off of the diff, and the diff will literally slide right out of the front of the car. Makes it really easy to get to. You can get to the front diff in probably a minute. Like I said, you can take the center diff out of the car in like 30 seconds. The rear diff is probably the longest of all of them, but you can probably get the rear diff out of the car within probably 2 minutes time, and it's really cool. It's really cool also. Brian did a really good job. It's a split case, meaning that the case will separate this way in half. And if you take a look here, I'm not sure how easy you can see it. There's a couple of screws on the top, one big screw on the side, and 2 big screws on the rear. And the center or the rear chassis brace has hinges on it, and it allows you to take the whole rear end of the car and just flip it up, and the diff comes right out. Really easy to get to. You don't have to take the arms off. You don't have to mess with the shocks. You don't have to mess with taking the rear pivot out and all the pins. And it's a lot quicker and a lot easier to get to. So maintaining the vehicle is way quicker, way easier, much quicker to get to everything. Now, the other thing that you can see that we've done is the entire steering acronym is changed. The caster blocks, the spindles are completely different. They're more up to date. They have more caster. They have inclination, trail. If you also look here, they have adjustable spindle arms. We will have a couple of options. So if you like your car to be a little bit more aggressive, you can run a more aggressive option. If you like your car to be a little bit more easier to drive, we have an easier to drive option. The sway bars, as you can see on the sway bars, they have adjustments here also. One thing we found was as the sway bar can slide left to right, it basically manually adjusts itself on when it can pick up, and we don't want the sway bars to do that. We want the sway bars to work when we want them to work and how we want them to work. Let's see. The rear end of the car is completely different, as you can see. The pivot's lower, the pivot's narrower, the arms are longer, has a completely different offset rear hub. Shock angles are different. The shocks are a lot longer. Let's see. Different motor mount. So a lot of stuff was put into the car. None of the geometry from our old car was brought into this vehicle. We knew at the time when we needed to come out with a new 8 scale that it needed to be completely different. It needed to be up to speed where everybody else is, and it needed to be a game changer. And that's what our goal was, and I think we've accomplished that goal. Like I said earlier, the car's metric screws, that's all the way down to the flywheel. So every screw on the car has been changed to metric. We didn't hold back. We didn't leave any, standard screws in any places. The entire car is metric from bottom to top. The drivetrain is still super free. That's one thing we paid really close attention to. That was one trait that was really good on our 4.0 and beyond, was how free our drivetrain was. We kept that. The arms will come with a plastic insert, and there'll be a carbon insert, which you can see here. These are a carbon insert. They're an optional insert that we'll have. The Evo Springs that we currently sell are what will be available for the vehicle. They work. They're designed for this car. The battery now. So let's talk about the radio tray. So it's a split radio tray. The battery department's in the very front here. So this holds the battery. We'll have a couple. I think we'll have 2 option batteries for the vehicle. And back here is where your receiver box, your switch is, and your transponder. So it's a split box. It's a split radio tray. It's really nice. Got a switch holder back here, so you can turn your car on and off. All designed in. Let's see. What else, guys? So maybe Dakota and Tanner and JR can give you guys a little bit of an insight on how the car feels, how the car's driving. Some of the different feelings you get. I'll give you a little input on where we're at here this weekend with the Roar Nationals. Right now, we're with our old car. We had that car for 12 years. If we needed this, we knew exactly what to do. If the car was doing this, we knew exactly what to do. And with this car, I think it's in a really good place. We're just trying to learn the setup. We're trying to learn the combinations. We're trying to learn, what things do, because it's nothing like our previous vehicle. So we're just trying to learn everything we can about the car. We're making massive changes every time we hit the track. Each driver's trying different things. We're trying to grab all that information and work together. And you know, some drivers like different stuff than others, so it's a combination of trying to figure that out. Our goal is to have a good. I think our goal would be to have a really good standard all-around setup by the time this car ships, and be prepared and ready for the World Championships. I think we're in a good place this weekend. We're making a lot of headway from where we started to where we're at today. So I think if we continue on that same track by the end of the race, I think we should be in it. So like I said, we're just trying to put a portfolio together of the setups and combinations. We've ran the car at quite a few different tracks. Dakota and a couple others raced it at the Horizon race a few weeks ago. And really the way it's working is we show up and we get to speed and we optimize the setup for the track by the end of the weekend. And that's exactly what we need to do. We need to continue to optimize the setup by the end of the weekend. And then what we'll do is we'll assess by the time we get to a lot of different tracks and a lot of different track conditions. We will eventually shortly get to a all-around combination standard setup. So like I said, this is the first major race we've been at, second overall race, and probably the first time anybody like JR, it's his very first time running the car this weekend. Tanner's ran it just last weekend before coming, and Dakota's ran it probably 4 different times, with splitting between the stock nats. He got to run it a couple of times, so we're starting from ground one, and we're pretty stoked on it. So why don't you guys fill them in with how it's kind of driving and how everything's going and the different feel from our old car to this car. And I'll look up some of the questions that we have here and see what everybody's got going on.
Yeah, everything's been going well here. Like Kevin said, it's a brand new car, so we have no base setup. We're pretty much starting from scratch. So we've been making changes every run, and I feel like we ended today in a pretty good spot for me. Going to keep making some small changes here and there to just kind of figure it out. Track has been changing every round as well, so that's been kind of throwing us for a loop for a little bit. But yeah, everything's been working awesome. Drives great. Haven't had any issues with it.
Yeah, to add to that, I think we're all working really well as a team. With a brand new car, there's a lot of ups and downs, you know, and I think we're facing them all. I think we're getting a really good base setup so far. Everyone on the team's been working really hard together. Like he said, we've been changing the car every run, and I think we all kind of ended on a pretty good note as far as where we started. And I think the car is really good. It has a lot of potential to be even better. So I think we ended on a good note today.
Cool. I'll let JR speak on that here in just a few minutes. I'll answer some of you guys' questions, and then we'll get to JR and let him kind of fill you guys in on how everything's going. But we got some good questions here. So David's asking if the gear ratio has changed in the vehicle. No, the gear ratio is the exact same in the vehicle. The rear ring and pinion is the same as the old car. The front pinion is the same, but the ring gear has changed. And the reason why that ring gear has changed is because we straightened out the drivetrain in the vehicle. Because one of the issues we were having with our old car was our drivetrain was not equal front to rear. And so the front diff is now offset like the rear diff was before. And that's why the ring gear in the front diff is different. Now the diff cups inside of the diffs, the diff cups are the same, and the internal spider gears are the same as our old car. And that's because our diff is the best. It's the best on the market. Other manufacturers, I'll say it, use our diffs. So that's really where we're at with that. Cool. I will order the new buggy. Can't wait to see. Will the heat of the engine heat up the servo? Vinny. So no, like I said earlier, the servo is much farther away from where our old servo was. Our old servo used to sit a lot closer. It was more right in this range in here. It was probably 10 millimeters in closer, and it was back a little bit farther and closer to the side case of the engine. We have paid attention to the temperature of the servos as we've been going along with testing, and the temperature of the servos has been in a good spot. It's where we want it. We've had no failures, so everything's been really good. Car looks awesome. Awesome job on the X. I've noticed it had lots of traction today while other cars were struggling. Yes, so right now the car has a lot of grip. It probably has a little too much rear traction, and that's kind of what we're trying to get rid of. We want to get rid of a little bit of traction, which will help us gain a little bit of steering, and that's kind of where we're at right now, and that's what we're currently working on. We made some headway at the end of the day today. But yeah, the car, when you get on the throttle, does have a ton of traction. So, does it come with the new Evo Springs? Those springs are smooth. So the car will come with an Evo style spring on it. There's a reason for that. But the Evo Springs are what we run on it, so if when you upgrade to the different color springs, you won't be able to get the ones that come on the kit. I hope you guys understand that. It's just because of the difference of where they're made and how that worked out to where we aren't able to get these particular springs on the car. But all of our testing originally was done with the springs that come on the car. And they're very close. It's just like our old car. It had different springs from out of the box than what was available for it. But there's really no difference in them. They drive the same. The car also will come. The car will come with 4mm shock shafts, and there's going to be an optional 3.5mm shock shafts. And that's going to be for really, really bumpy tracks. We're going to have a real bumpy track optional for the shocks. You can also notice that we changed the shock caps. And the shock shafts are also out of a different material. They're a plain silver chrome material. And there are some reasons for that. The hinge pins are also different, and we have not bent a single hinge pin since we've started doing all the testing with the new hinge pins. That was one of the big major problems we were having with the 4.0. We were having a lot of the hinge pins breaking. So we made an adjustment to that, and we haven't bent any hinge pins since then. So let's see what else we got here, guys. What's up, Nick? Hope soon. Can you pre-order now, Adam, but won't ship till end of August? Okay. Mine is working awesome. How do you pick it? How do you put it back in? More droop than before. Clay, yes, the car has a lot more droop than before. It's hard to, I can't really explain how much more, but the car has a tremendous amount more droop, which is also what helps it through the bumps. When will the E version be available? So like I've said in the past, as you can see, we are working on everything 8 scale. So I'm not sure dates on anything beyond this, but yes, we're working on everything. When's release date for the new car? I don't have that date information with me at the Nationals here. It will be whatever online shows, and I'm not sure if it shows a date yet online, but I'm sure that it does. Low C for life. Thank you guys. Really appreciate that. Floats. Sounds good. Tank. Yeah, so the tank is a completely different tank than our old car. And right now we are running the tank, and it's at, I think we're right at 124 cc's, right around where we're at right now. That's with the clunk out. Or not the clunk, sorry, but the spacer in there. So, yeah, so the car has 20 degrees of caster. It also has inclination, and it's got a trail built into it. It's all stamped on the front of the spindles. You can see here. So it tells you what this spindle is, so you'll be able to always know what you've got.
There's a question about the spring cut bottoms and the.
Is there? It's not showing me all the.
Don just asked about them.
So yeah, you can see on the bottom of the springs here now we have a set screw in there, which just helps the spring cup from not coming off. We're not the first one to do that, but it works really well. I think I've eliminated the need for multiple Ackerman bars. Do you plan on eliminating the vast number of hop-up parts? Jim, no. We're going to have a ton of hop-up parts for this car. The car is going to have, like I said, it's going to have different shock shaft options. It's going to have aluminum top plate options. It's going to have carbon options. Not all the options are necessary, but they're cool to have. Everybody likes to trick out their buggy, make it look how they want it to look, put their kind of flavor on the car. So yeah, we'll be focused on hop-up parts once the car comes out. As you can see, Dakota's car here, it already has a Lungsford titanium kit on it. So we've been working with Lungsford on that.
There's a universal option.
Yep, we're gonna have universals for the car. There's gonna be we're already gonna have plenty of hop-up options for the vehicle.
The other question here: the rear hub carrier spindle height adjustment up and down.
Yes, so you can see here on the back, the rear hub is adjustable up and down. Whoa, just dropping the car here. So you can see it's fully adjustable up and down. We're going to have different hex widths so you can widen and narrow the car. From there, you can take a look here at the motor mount down here. It's got a chassis brace that goes along the side. The chassis is 3.5 millimeter thick. Or it's a 3 mil chassis, sorry. Not 3.5, it's 3 millimeters.
There's a question about the battery size.
So I don't have the battery size dimensions right now off the top of my head, but it's a dynamite stick pack. I'll get the part number for everybody. I'll have Ryan put it in the comments below so everybody can order the battery pack that they need. You can see here that's kind of cool with the radio tray that we did. There's like a little wire holder, so you screw this little plate down. It keeps all your wires nice and neat, running from the front battery box to the rear, and all your servos will join in and go right through there to the back battery box. Pretty cool. We got nice mud guards. Actually, another cool feature. So, JR, if you come up here real quick for me. So, we don't have it on the car right now, obviously. We actually have not tested it yet ourselves. We did a little bit of testing with it in pre-production. But you can actually take the mud guards off, and these are shock locations. You can take the shock tower, flip the shock tower around, and you can run the shocks on the front of the arm like we do in 10 scale these days, which is a really, really cool option. We just haven't had enough time on the car to kind of get through everything and then also see what that moving the shocks from the rear of the arm to the front of the arm is going to do for us. But it is something that we've seen in other categories that have kind of developed and moved forward with four-wheel drive 10-scale off-road, two-wheel drive 10-scale off-road. Everything's moving the shocks kind of to the front of the arm, so we wanted to make sure that this new Nitro buggy had that same option as well. There's a little spacer that we have made when you flip it around that allows you to bolt the wing to back to the shock tower and get everything back in the same position. So I think it's really, really, really cool that we're going to have that option to move the shocks forward. I really wish, honestly, that we kind of knew what it did right now today. But unfortunately, we only have so much time on the car right now, and we don't have that information yet. So, we got any more questions there, JR?
There was one. see if I can scroll back up
Clutch
here.
will still work on.
Yeah, there you go. That's the one. I was gonna say.
Yeah, only thing that is different is metric screws. Same starter box with same mounts, or new starter box mounts. So, yes, the clutch is the same. The clutch is the exact same. We're going to have an optional vented clutch bell if you want to use a vented clutch bell. And the flywheel pins are going to be metric. And that's it with that. That's going to be the same, other than the pins are going to be a metric screw versus the standard screws from before. The clutch is the same. Clutch bells, you'll have both options. You can use a current clutch bell, or like I said, we're going to have an optional vented clutch bell. The starter box, yes, the starter box does work all the same. We're using just the standard starter box right now. I think they're going to do an optimum to move the wheel on the starter box forward a couple of millimeters, which will make it just a little bit easier to use. But yeah, we wanted to make sure all those things that we currently have, we didn't want to have everybody have to go out and get different starter boxes and all this different stuff. So they made a conscious decision to keep it all as close as possible to using the current stuff. So, so thank you, Sean. As soon as I asked, I got a good look at it. Whoops. Same radio tray. Apologize if it's already been asked. So Josh would know it's a completely different radio tray. I mean, you can just do a once over on the car again if you want, JR.
There's a question about how to adjust the motor with this motor mount.
So yeah, so let's flip it over here and show them the bottom of the car. So these four and this screw right here. If you see this.
Mm-hmm.
So these four screws and this single screw out here is what will adjust your motor. I think they're going to be working on, I'm pretty sure we're going to be working on a quick exchange motor mount as an option down the line here shortly. If it's not going to be available when the car ships separately, I'm not 100% sure. But you can see all the arms are solid out for durability, front and rear. So that's the bottom of the chassis. So, we got any other good questions here?
I haven't seen any lately. Let's see.
Did the rear end grip improve? More overall travel in the suspension? Clay, yeah, I think I know the overall grip has improved for sure. The rear of the car has a lot more droop. The front of the car has a lot more droop. Bump handling, I think, is drastic. It's drastically improved on bump handling. I think everything's there. Everything is here. We just really are working on gathering the information from race to race. Every time we go on the track with the car, which is very limited. I mean, we've ran 4 times since we've gotten here. There's not just been open practice, so we make a change, we have to wait hours to get back on the track. We're just doing everything we can about the car right now. And it's going to take us a little bit of time to get everything completely dialed in. I mean, it'll take us a little while for sure. We're starting from square one. So,
Will there be a quick change motor mount option?
I believe I overheard something about a quick exchange motor mount option. There's not going to be one that comes in the kit, just like before. It'll be an optional item. I'm not sure 100% on that and when it's going to come, but I'm pretty sure I overheard something about it. I know we've been talking about it. So yeah. You got any other good questions for us?
Randy would like to know when you get one of these t-shirts.
So the t-shirts. So I had these quickly made by Jim Conquest at Imagine It Graphics. I'm not sure if we're going to sell them. I made them really quick for the Nationals, just for the guys that were coming and running the car. I think they're pretty cool. I'm going to talk to Todd Hodge when I get back and see if we can make them and sell them. I think it'd be pretty neat. I like it.
New wing too.
So yeah, the wing is relatively the exact same wing as we had, but the side dams have been increased to make them legal for IFMAR. Our old wing was illegal because the side dams of the wing were too small. It's to fit their giant IFMAR numbers on the side of the car. So.
There's the brake discs, they're metal. That was another question that was asked.
Yes, the brake discs are metal, and the pads are a braking material pad. Yep.
Is it LLRC, the rear?
It's totally
wings?
Different. So
okay.
You can't think of any numbers. You can't think of any part numbers. You can't think of anything at all that was related to our old car. This is something completely new. We're leaving that in the past, and this is our new vehicle moving forward. So it's not labeled LLRC. It's not labeled anything. It's just the rear pivot. And yep.
Are the CVDs longer like the arms?
Yeah, it's totally different. The arms are different. When we built this car, we didn't look at our current car at all. There was nothing that was taken into consideration with our current car. Our current car has been a great car. It's won 4 national titles. It's won so many races. It's won Nitro Challenge. It's won Neo Buggies. It's won a European championship. It's won so many. It's won so many races, and it's time to put that one to rest for a little while and start with this baby here. And we're gonna focus on this thing, and we're gonna make this thing really, really good. So like I said, when you think drive shafts, the lengths of them versus our old car, they're not the same. Nothing works out in the same as our old vehicle. The front pivot width is different. The rear pivot width is different. The pivots are higher versus, they're different heights than our old vehicle. The weight bias is different than our car. The batteries in the front. It has more caster. It has a lot more caster. It's got inclination in the spindles. It's got trail in the spindles. The shock angles are different. There's really nothing about this car that relates to our old vehicle, other than it has some of the flavors, the characteristics of the look of some of our old car. But that's what TLR is, so we wanted to keep the look TLR. So yeah, it is, the geometry of this car is completely different. So
there's been a couple starter box questions again. I know we covered it earlier, but
yeah, so we're using the exact same starter box from our old car, and that just matters where the chassis is bent and cut. And we made sure that our old box would fit into the pins and everything with this chassis. We made the chassis fit that, because everybody has our starter boxes for our car, and it kind of would be a bummer if everybody had to switch our starter boxes. We're probably going to move the wheel on the starter box forward a couple of millimeters, so it fits into the flywheel hole a little bit better. But that's it. Other than that, the starter box works perfectly fine on the car. We're using the bone stock right out of the box, starter box, putting on. We just have to push it forward a little bit, and it starts right up. So, anything else?
I think that's all the questions we got.
Okay, guys. You want to talk, JR? Or no?
I mean, I've only had the car like
all right, let's
three.
talk to JR. Let me grab the camera here, guys, and we'll talk with JR here for a minute. JR, literally, this is his first time running the vehicle right today, or this weekend. So give us a little input. I know you were very vocal about, some of the stuff of how our other car drove. Mm-hmm. So give it to us of how the wheel input is, how the vehicle feels to you, the balance. Right now, you literally got the car yesterday and ran it for the first time.
Yeah, I got the car. We kind of rebuilt it here in the room because it was a car used at another race, so kind of rebuilt it and went on the track for the first time when the track's kind of slimy, and I felt like I could even drive it for the first time. I could drive it as hard as I want, and it could take it, even though it was a car that I have never even took around any track yet. So from there, we've been making little changes as we go, trying to make things better, learn it. Like Dakota said, each run we're trying to learn each thing, and I feel like I'm already kind of up to speed, and I've already been with the car for basically 4 runs, basically.
Yeah.
I feel like from now to the end of the weekend, I can only go more forward. I can't go backwards. I'm already kind of ahead of the game. So the driving part of it, the wheel input, is totally different than the 4.0. It's more precise, but yet also more forgiving all at the same time. The whole car is more forgiving to me. Much easier to drive harder for me, I think is a good way of putting it. You can push the car a lot harder. And I look to push the car even harder the rest of the weekend to see how things go. And
awesome.
Ready to do it, get her done.
Awesome. So would you guys all say the wheel input, would you say the car's twitchy? That was one of the big complaints with our old car. Everybody complained about how twitchy it was, how nervous the car was to drive. Would you say it's really easy to drive on the wheel?
Yeah, the wheel input is however much you turn the wheel, that's how much input you get on the track.
Right.
So it's really easy to be precise, and you can have a lot of steering and not be hard to drive.
Right.
And it does not catch anything when you're turning the wheel.
Yeah.
So that's another really nice feature.
Gotcha. So there's a couple more questions that just came in. I'll answer them really quickly, guys. So there was a question here about, so is it going to be mainly TLR part numbers or LOSI LOSB? So the vehicle should be all TLR part numbers. As far as I know, all new parts moving forward that's TLR is going to be TLR part numbers. The reason why there's a lot of LOSI part numbers is because the car was developed back when we had the LOSI part numbers for everything in our systems. So now moving forward, anything that we develop new always is going to be, a TLR part number. So yeah, it's going to be all TLR on that. Is the rear going to be adjustable on the chassis like the last 4.0 chassis? I'm not sure what you mean. It's going to have...
Forward and backwards.
You won't be able to do like the Worlds kit, forward, backwards, and stuff. I mean, that was part of the 4.0 vehicle. This is part of, the 8ight-X, which is the next generation of our car. So, no, it's not going to be the same. Okay, guys. Thank you all very, very much. Like I said, we appreciate everybody coming on with these TLR, in touch with TLR. It's been really great. We're going to keep doing these every single week. Like I said, next week is going to be with Brian Kinney, the engineer of this vehicle. The next few weeks moving forward, it's all going to be 8ight-X on In Touch with TLR. We're going to talk with Brian Kinney next week. We're going to get in depth with Brian about how the vehicle was developed. The thought process. When we sat down at the round table, like how did it all come about? How did we get where we are today? I'm also going to show you getting to the rear diff and front diff in the car, and how easy it is to get to the diffs. The diffs, like I said, are really easy to get to, and we're really stoked on all that. So big thanks to Brian Kinney and Ryan Dunford, the product manager, managing this project. We're moving forward with it. We're looking for some great success. So thank you guys. Next week, stay tuned. We got a lot of 8ight-X stuff going. Thank you, everybody.